The cost of colorism for dark-skinned African American women. So my research topic is the impact of colorism within the African American community as a mechanism of social stratification and systemic inequality, specifically focusing on how colorism shapes the experiences of dark-skinned African American women. The significance of this research is that it explores how colorism perpetuates social inequalities within the African American community. By examining how colorism affects African American women, particularly dark-skinned African American women, the study highlights how systemic inequalities are integrated and their long-lasting consequences. My research question is, in what ways does colorism in the African American community function as a mechanism of social stratification and systemic inequality for dark-skinned women? And my thesis is rooted in the legacy of slavery. Colorism within the African American community functions as a tool of systemic inequality, shaping the women's experiences by influencing their self-perception, opportunities, and interpersonal relationships. And colorism, as described by the Cambridge Dictionary, is the dislike and unfair treatment of the members of a particular racial group who have a darker skin color than others in the same group. Historical background. The origins of colorism can be traced back to slavery. Enslaved women were often sexually abused by their masters, and they would give birth to children of mixed race who would, be light-skinned. These children were often granted special privileges within the slave system, which included working in the house and not out in the sun. And they were also sold at higher prices, deeming them more valuable than unmixed slaves. This racial hierarchy created a clear distinction between lighter-skinned and darker-skinned African Americans, which was used to justify social and economic advantages for lighter-skinned individuals. Also, some light-skinned African Americans were able to pass as white, which allowed them to avoid discrimination, further perpetuating the belief that lighter skin was more desirable, while darker skin was associated with inferiority, especially since dark-skinned individuals were often regulated to the harshest forms of labor, particularly in the fields. How colorism manifests in media. So this specific example in media is hip-hop, and there are some lyrics on the screen. The second quote says, "I tell a dark-skinned chick I'm allergic to chocolate." That's Lil Wayne in his song Ride with the Mac. And the last one says "yellow model chick," which is the opening line of Look at Me Now by Chris Brown. The terms yellow and red refer to light-skinned women, which is often used in hip-hop. As one of the most influential forms of entertainment in modern culture, hip-hop has the ability to shape perceptions, especially among younger audiences. The repeated depiction of light-skinned women as the ideal beauty in hip-hop can create a cultural hierarchy that places lighter-skinned individuals above those with darker complexions, further perpetuating the colorist attitudes that have existed for centuries. And for dark-skinned Black women, these portrayals can be damaging to self-esteem. When the media positions them as undesirable, it can result in internalized colorism, where dark-skinned women begin to view themselves as less beautiful or less worthy than their lighter-skinned counterparts. This can affect their self-perception, opportunities, and even relationships, as colorism continues to function as a tool of social stratification within the community. And in another form of media, generally in advertisements, magazines, and other forms, lighter-skinned individuals are often depicted as successful, attractive, and aspirational. Despite this being able to influence both men and women, it is found that the aspect of beauty holds more weight in the life of women. Media representations contribute to the establishment of norms that associate lighter skin with qualities such as beauty, success, and desirability. By consistently showcasing lighter-skinned individuals in positions of power, fame, or beauty, media outlets reinforce the idea that these qualities are inherently linked to lighter skin tones. This phenomenon also contributes to a larger culture of prejudice, a societal belief system in which lighter skin is privileged over darker skin. When the media constantly reinforces these biased standards, it creates an environment in which dark-skinned individuals, particularly dark-skinned women, may be marginalized or excluded from certain opportunities or social circles. The line between men and women. Being dark-skinned for African American men and women operates differently across genders. For African American men, darker skin is often associated with dominance, power, and masculinity, which can serve as a form of social capital where darker skin tones are perceived as stronger or more authoritative, while reinforcing certain stereotypes about male strength and leadership. On the other hand, lighter skinned males are considered less masculine, although they do not face societal repercussions. But on the other hand, colorism functions in a very different way for African American women. While it may be a good thing for dark skin to be linked to strength or power in men, in women it is detrimental. Associating with dark skin with masculinity clashes with traditional notions of femininity that emphasize softness, beauty, and delicacy. So for dark-skinned Black women, darker skin becomes a marker of undesirability because they are seen as more masculine, while lighter skin is often elevated as more feminine, soft, and beautiful. This gender double standard highlights how gender stereotypes are perpetuated even through colorism, where darker-skinned women are unfairly judged against both a racial and gendered framework. Colorism within romance. Following the abolition of slavery, light-skinned African Americans, especially those with mixed-race heritage, often married within their group to preserve lighter skin tones, as lighter skin was associated with higher social status, greater access to job opportunities, and overall socioeconomic advancement. This phenomenon is actually related to something called the mulatto hypothesis, mulatto meaning someone who's mixed with white and black, which suggests that individuals of mixed race, particularly those with a significant amount of white ancestry, were more refined or civilized compared to their darker skinned counterparts. Essentially, the more white DNA someone had, the more desirable they are. At the same time, white beauty standards exerted significant influence in the African American perceptions of attractiveness. Some Black men viewed relationships with white women as a way to assert their status and overcome feelings of racial inferiority. These interracial relationships were sometimes seen as symbolic of social ascension or climbing the social ladder, as they allowed individuals to feel closer to the ideals of whiteness that were encased in American culture. But consequently, this leaves African American women, specifically dark-skinned ones, feeling undesired, especially because Black women tend to lean toward Black men as partners. The obsession with the proximity to whiteness may limit her chances of obtaining a partner. Skin tone plays a very significant role in the lives of Black women because it influences their self-esteem, perceptions of their own worth. Dark-skinned Black women in particular may face heightened prejudices, not only from the broader society, but also within their own communities. These women are often subjected to negative stereotypes that link dark skin with unattractiveness, toughness, or even a lack of femininity. The struggle against both external and internalized colorism creates a really hard and complex relationship between self-perception and achievement. The negative impact, combined with the cultural expectation that women embody certain ideals of beauty and femininity, make it harder for dark-skinned women to feel empowered. Symbolic interactionalism in practice. W.E.B. Du Bois' famous question, "How does it feel to be a problem?" presented in The Souls of Black Folks, captures the psychological burden of living with a marginalized racial identity. For many dark-skinned African American women, this question becomes an internalized reality that they often feel the weight of social devaluation, societal devaluation as well, based on their skin color. The message conveyed through media, social structures, and everyday interactions frequently reinforce this idea that lighter skin is associated with beauty, worth, and desirability, which leaves dark-skinned women to grapple with feelings of inferiority and exclusion. Symbolic interactionalism helps to explain how these beliefs about beauty and worth are constructed and perpetuated through daily interactions and cultural representations. Lighter skin becomes a symbol of success and social mobility, while darker skin is often viewed as a symbol of disadvantage. In conclusion, colorism within the African American community functions as a mechanism of social stratification, deeply rooted in slavery. It shapes the experiences of dark-skinned African American women by negatively influencing their self-perception, opportunities, and even relationships. Lighter skin is often linked to higher status, while darker skin faces a more negative stigma when it comes to African American women, therefore reinforcing systemic inequality and mistreatment.